In November of 2023, we saw the PFL acquire Bellator in one of the largest acquisitions in mixed martial arts history. The long-reigning second-tier promotion, the B promotion in Bellator behind the UFC, was acquired by the PFL, who, for the time, the past couple years, there was kind of a race between who was 2 and 3 between these two promotions, but we no longer need that argument or debate because they are under one roof, and this weekend is the start of that partnership, the first mega event. It will feature fighters from the PFL, from Bellator, competing against one another, champions versus champions, contenders and big names versus other champions or other contenders and big names, and it is going to be a very good event, at least I hope so, to kick off this new era of MMA for the PFL and Bellator. The bill is headlined by two champion versus champion matchups. Renan Ferreira, the 2023 heavyweight champion in PFL, versus Ryan Bader, the former two-weight world champion in Bellator, currently heavyweight champion. And the co-main event will feature the light heavyweight champion of 2023, Impa Kasanganay. He will be going up against the undefeated middleweight champion of the world in Bellator, Johnny Eblen. That fight will take place at 185 pounds. So let's kick this off by discussing the two champion versus champion matchups, and then we will also discuss some of the other big name, big implication style fights throughout PFL versus Bellator to finish it off. The 6'8" giant Renan Ferreira finally amassed his potential and reached the pinnacle of the PFL during the 2023 heavyweight season, where he tallied off 3 straight victories en route to winning the championship. Now, the season didn't start as planned. He actually lost the first bout of the regular season to Rizvan Kunayev, who was an Eagle FC heavyweight champion. The organization once run or still run. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that organization right now, but at one point or another, Khabib Nurmagomedov was at the top of that organization. He came over to the PFL in what Noah and I at the time were thinking was the front runner to run away with the heavyweight season. He defeats Renan Ferreira over the course of a 3-round decision. However, the result got overturned to a no contest after a positive drug test on the side of Kunayev, which allowed Ferreira to still be in the running for the points discussion in the season, and he rallied off a first-round knockout over Matthias Scheffel, which earned him 6 points and put him into the playoffs, where he then got another first-round knockout over Maurice Green, and inevitably in the championship defeated Denis Goltsov via TKO in the second round. And if you look outside of even last year, he's had a very good run in the PFL. He has a 6-1 record in the promotion, and if you look at it as well, 3 no contests. That's a lot of no contests to have in a very short amount of time. But let's look a little deeper into what happened in each of those circumstances. We, of course, already started with one of them, and the most recent one last season versus Kunayev. So if we look at the 2022 season for Renan Ferreira, he started it off very hot. He had a 25-second knockout in the first round to start his season, and in his second regular season bout, he lost a decision to Klidson Abreu. However, that eventually got overturned due to another failed drug test, this side on the side of Abreu, which resulted in Renan Ferreira having 6 points and getting into the playoffs. However, he wasn't able to put together a run like he did in 2023. He did fall to Ante Delia via knockout in the second round of their fight. Delia would go on to win the 2022 season. And then for that third and final no contest in the PFL, we go all the way back to May of 2021, where we saw the PFL debut of not only Renan Ferreira, but of Patricio, former UFC heavyweight champion. And this one was a funky one and a no contest on the side of Renan Ferreira, but not due to a failed drug test after the fact. It was actually in the fight where there was a tap that was not caught by the referee. Patricio let go of his submission due to the fact he felt Renan Ferreira tap. Renan Ferreira then transitioned to the top and finished Fabricio Werdum via strikes on the ground in the first round of their fight. It did go on to get overturned in the aftermath, and then it was kind of just a hoopla of drama in that 2021 season from there on out for Renan Ferreira. But alas, in 2023, he went on to win the season and become the heavyweight champion, and now he gets to headline the very first PFL versus Bellator card against a former contender of the UFC, Ryan Bader, a former two-weight Bellator world champion, and the current heavyweight champion of the world. Ryan Bader debuted in the UFC in 2008 in what would turn into a 15-win to 5-loss run with the company. He never got to a UFC light heavyweight title shot, but he was a contender in the rankings for many, many years, facing some of the most elite talents in the promotion throughout his time, including John Jones, including Tito Ortiz, including Lyoto Machida, Anthony Rumble Johnson, and even Glover Teixeira. He got wins over Quentin Rampage Jackson, Phil Davis, Rashad Evans, Ovent St. Preux, and he had his last UFC fight with a win over Antonio Rogerio Nogueira in 2016 before joining and debuting in Bellator in June of 2017. And since then, he's had a great career in Bellator. 9 wins, 2 losses, 1 no contest, a 2-weight world champion, the current sitting heavyweight champion of the world, with wins over the likes of Fedor Emelianenko, 2 wins at that, a revenge match over Lyoto Machida from the UFC, beating Phil Davis for a second time. The list goes on, and he's now 40 years old, so he will come into this fight 6 years the elder of the PFL champion Renan Ferreira, and the size difference is glaring. Renan Ferreira is 6'8" to Ryan Bader 6'2", a 6-inch height advantage, and oh my goodness, is this the biggest reach discrepancy in the history of a championship fight? Renan Ferreira has an 85-inch reach compared to Ryan Bader's 73-inch reach. So a 6-inch height advantage, a 12-inch reach advantage, and 6 years younger, yet Renan Ferreira is the slight betting underdog. I think this is a very fun clash, and you would think on paper it's simple. If Renan Ferreira can defend the takedowns and the wrestling of Ryan Bader, he has a very good shot to land the knockout blow. We've seen Bader being knocked out multiple times in his past. However, if he can get through that long reach, make this fight close and get it down to the ground, Renan Ferreira is no stranger to getting finished himself. I think this is going to be a very interesting stylistic clash. The sizes and the way in which they fight is very, very intriguing. I think it's a very deserving first headlining spot for PFL versus Bellator. I'm excited to see what you guys think of this fight in the comments below on what you think is going to go down. If you agree with the betting odds, can Ryan Bader turn back the clock one more time, get a win over the massive, massive younger guy in Renan Ferreira, or Renan Ferreira get the biggest win of his career following the biggest year of his career? And now we transition straight into the co-main event where we see last year's light heavyweight champion Impa Kasanganay, former PFL Challenger Series contract winner, and former Dana White Contender Series contract winner into the UFC a few years back. He put it all together and won the $1 million tournament in 2023, and now he comes back down to 185 pounds to take on the absolutely surging, in his prime, undefeated Johnny Eblen. After winning 2 fights on Dana White's Contender Series, once in August of 2019 and another time in August of 2020, Impa Kasanganay earned his shot into the UFC. However, the dream of being in the top mixed martial arts promotion was short-lived. He had a 2-2 record, and one of those losses came on the side of one of the craziest knockouts in UFC history to Joaquin Buckley in 2020. It was honestly one of the most memorable moments of the entire year and of the COVID era that the UFC had. His other loss was a knockout loss to Carlston Harris, and after that, he even ventured into Eagle FC, where he faltered. But in July of 2022, everything changed for Impa Kasanganay. He got a victory in ex-MMA over former UFC veteran Jared Gooden, earned his shot to be on the PFL Challenger Series, essentially their version of Dana White's Contender Series. He earned a contract in March of 2023 and went on to fight 4 other times to win $1 million, to become a PFL champion, and achieve his dream of being a mainstream, well-known guy in the mixed martial arts world. 2023, quite frankly, it belonged to Impa Kasanganay. And in November, that championship-winning performance over Josh Silveira, it was a clinic for 25 straight minutes where he defended so many takedowns, kept it in his area, his realm, the entire 5 rounds, and outstruck Josh Silveira brutally. It was a beautiful masterclass performance to cap off the year for Impa, and he's coming into this red hot to take on the unbeaten Johnny Eblen. 32 years old, 14-0, a middleweight champion with a great resume, with progressively better competition throughout. Johnny Eblen is one of the best middleweights in the world, regardless of what promotion we are discussing. He dethroned Gegard Mousasi in June of 2022 to continue his perfect run and to become the middleweight champion of the world, and then defended the middleweight title 2 separate times before the Bellator was acquired by the PFL. The most recent time was a brutal third-round TKO over Fabian Edwards, the brother of UFC welterweight champion Leon Edwards. And while he is very well rounded, it is clear that his path to victory is to get his opponents to the ground and drown them over the course of 15 or 25 minutes. It doesn't matter because he will not stop. He is the middleweight Merab Dvalishvili, to be quite honest. He is just a machine that never gets tired, and he comes into this fight a minus 440 betting favorite, a huge underdog odds on the sides of Impa Kasanganay, plus 340. But I'm telling you right now, those odds, if you look at the most recent performance from Impa, should not be this way. He proved that he can keep the fight standing, and when it's standing, there aren't many people in these weight classes that can compete with him, especially how Josh Silveira was put away. And let us not forget that he has submissions to his name. In the 2023 season, he got an arm triangle submission choke. So he is no slouch on the ground. Now, obviously, it's different when you're on the bottom with someone as dangerous and as strong as Johnny Eblen. I'm not saying that Impa should all of a sudden look to grapple, but I am saying that if he can somehow reverse position in a scramble or a transition and end up on top, he could all of a sudden play spoiler in Johnny Eblen's world. But the biggest thing for me here is that if he does keep this fight standing, if he can somehow, some way manage to keep Johnny Eblen on the feet and out of where he is most comfortable, this all of a sudden shrinks down to a pick'em, in my opinion. So out of all the fights on this card, out of the 2 champion versus champion matchups, this is by far the fight that I'm looking forward to most. I want to see if Johnny Eblen can continue to separate himself from the pack and really make an argument that not only is he the best in the world at middleweight in the PFL and Bellator, but maybe in all of the divisions, in all of the promotions is what I meant to say there, over even the likes of the UFC champion Dricus du Plessis. Time will tell. I'm not saying we'll ever get Johnny in the UFC. However, he can really make a claim here with another victory over Impa. And Impa can absolutely make a statement if he comes in for the upset over Johnny Eblen. Now, we were scheduled to have 2 other champion versus champion matchups, but we have lost them. The first was going to be the featherweight champion of the world from last year in the PFL, Jesus Pinedo, the underdog story of all stories, got it done last year on an amazing run, and he was supposed to go up against the perennial champion, the face of Bellator, Patricio Pitbull. Pinedo had to pull out of his fight due to injury. Now, Patricio is staying on the card. He will be taking on Gabriel Braga, who competed in the 2023 season. And the other champion versus champion matchup we lost was a very intriguing one. Magomed Karimov, a 2-time PFL champion, was slated to go up against Jason Jackson, the man who just at the tail end of Bellator's run dethroned the undefeated at the time Yaroslav Amosov via knockout. Magomed had to pull out due to injury as well, but much like Patricio Pitbull, the side of Bellator, Jason Jackson, is staying on this card. He will be facing the 2021 PFL champion Ray Cooper III, and we can just keep the discussion here because that is the next fight after, or I should say, leading into those two championship fights that we started off with. Ray Cooper III, short notice, catch weight 182 pounds, going up against the newly crowned welterweight champion in Bellator, Jason Jackson. And not only was Ray Cooper a champion in 2021, but he was a champion in 2019 as well. So another two-time PFL champion to enter in onto this card. One two-time champion takes the place of the other two-time champion in Maga Millions. And Ray Cooper has had a kind of a weird last couple of years. He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. He welcomed Derek Brunson to the PFL in November in a losing decision in like a featured style bout, and lost in the 2022 season to Carlos Leal. He's still right in those prime years at 31 years old, but he's had a couple weight miss issues and some injuries lingering, so I look forward to see if he can right the ship in 2024, put together a nice full calendar of activity, and no better way to start it than with a victory over the Bellator welterweight champion. And for Jason Jackson, he quietly put together a very impressive run during his time in Bellator. He lost in 2019 and has not looked back since. He's won 7 straight fights with victories over former champions such as Benson Henderson, victories over Paul Daly, Douglas Lima. He dethroned the once undefeated Yaroslav Amosov, who at that time looked unstoppable. And not only did he win, he ended a decision streak by knocking out Amosov in round number 3 in a fight that even leading into that 3rd round, it was all Jason Jackson. The ass-kicking machine, as he is known, is 33 years old, 17-4, right in those prime years, and I'm telling you, after a massive upset victory, he put himself on the map and is one of the most respected welterweights in the promotion right now, and that promotion now features, of course, the PFL and Bellator. I very much look forward to this scrap. Of course, it's at catch weight. I wish we were getting Maga Millions versus Jason Jackson. We even got the face-off between those two, just like we did with Pinedo and Patricio Pitbull, but maybe we'll get that at another date in 2024. Jason Jackson first has to go through another two-time champ, Ray Cooper III. As I mentioned, the other championship fight, or champion versus champion fight, that we lost with Pinedo and Patricio Pitbull, we now get Gabriel Braga stepping in with a 12-1 record, going up against just the guy for Bellator for many, many years at this point, a 2-weight world champion, someone that even tried to become a 3-weight world champion, Patricio Pitbull. I look for that to be a good scrap, but it's an uphill battle for Braga. And kudos to him because he was actually slated to fight Aaron Pico. They took him out of that fight to put him in a higher spot against Patricio Pitbull, which resulted in Aaron Pico getting a new opponent lower on that card as well against Henry Corrales. We also have the 2021 heavyweight championship winner, Bruno Cappelozza, welcoming Vadim Nemkov to the heavyweight division. Vadim was a long-reigning light heavyweight champion. We even had the pleasure of seeing him live in person over my shoulder there. We did only see Nemkov compete one time in 2023, and that was a championship fight against Yoel Romero. He did get the victory there. So during his time as champion, Nemkov dethroned Ryan Bader and defended the title 4 times. He has since vacated it. We will be getting the vacant championship fight at light heavyweight for Bellator, I believe in March, if I'm not mistaken. But here we see Nemkov going up to heavyweight for the first time in his Bellator / now PFL career. And it's a pretty good test because Bruno Cappelozza is no slouch. Vadim is one of the most highly decorated kickboxers in the sport right now. Bruno is ultra dangerous, very long and rangy guy. I look for that to be a very fun clash. We also get Thiago Santos versus Yoel Romero. Wow, never say never in this fight game. Thiago Santos ended his UFC career in August of 2022, having lost 5 of his last 6 fights, and then he lost his debut in the PFL to Rob Wilkinson. However, that result did get overturned in what was another failed drug test in 2023 for the PFL and their big-name guys. It was a rough year on that side of the spectrum for their company. So Thiago only competed once in 2023, and it wasn't a losing effort. Of course, it did get overturned, but now he's coming in to fight Yoel, the Soldier of God, Romero, the former Olympic silver medalist. Yoel came into Bellator in 2021. He's got a record of 2-2 in the promotion. I just talked about his loss to Vadim Nemkov in a title fight, and his other loss was his debut, which was against Phil Davis. But sandwiched in between that were 2 knockout victories, and at 46 years old, he is still molded and built like a statue made of marble. This should be a very interesting clash, but isn't going to just be some wild fight where these two dudes just absolutely throw bombs at one another. The way they fought recently, we may just have to wait and find out what happens, because it could be a very, very dull fight as well. And we have a banger of a fight at 155 pounds between the never in a boring fight Clay Collard and former Bellator champion AJ McKee. Clay Collard put together his best season yet in the PFL when he made it to the championship last year before losing to OAM Olivier Aubin Mercier, who at that time amassed his second straight PFL championship. He went undefeated in the promotion and retired on top. But before that, he beat Shane Burgos. He finished Stevie Ray. I mean, it was a great 2023 for Clay Collard. Again, all of his fights are exciting. They are electric. He never gets exhausted. He will come at you from bell to bell. AJ McKee, he has to be ready. AJ McKee was at one point undefeated, built his career in the Bellator featherweight division. He won the championship by dethroning Patricio Pitbull, lost the title in their immediate rematch, moved up to 155 pounds, and has been 3-0 ever since. He's 21-1 and still only 28 years old. I think we are in for a treat in this lightweight bout. I think it's going to be electric from start to finish. Clay Collard, never in a boring fight. AJ McKee, as well-rounded and polished as they come. Put these two together, it's going to be a beautiful clash. And throughout the rest of the card, there are other big names from both promotions. I mentioned the likes of Aaron Pico from Bellator. He's getting a short notice replacement against Henry Corrales. Biagio Ali Walsh, after a very dominant amateur career, a lot of that happened in the PFL that we got to witness, will be making his professional debut. Claressa Shields is coming back and fighting for the third time in the PFL on this card as well. So be sure to give me all of your thoughts on the very first PFL versus Bellator card in the comments below. Give me all of your predictions. Build your parlays. Start a discussion. Who do you think is going to have the big standout performances? Will we have the PFL pull off some upsets? Because if you look at all of those main featured bouts, there's only one PFL fighter that is the betting favorite. And that fighter being Thiago Santos. He's currently minus 130 the day I'm recording this on Wednesday. On the comeback is Yoel Romero at plus 110. All of the other big featured veteran versus veteran, champion versus champion matchups are favored on the side of Bellator. And then you, of course, have Biagio Ali Walsh on the side of PFL that has a favorite next to his name, and Claressa Shields. But they are not fighting Bellator talent. So in terms of the battle of promotions, Bellator on paper has the heavy advantage on the betting side of things, so we'll see how that turns out. I'm very excited for this. I am hopeful that this will turn into, a 2, 3, 4 time a year thing where we get the biggest names from both promotions going up against one another. We, of course, have the actual season that the PFL, or that we know them to do every year, starting up in April. So this is the start of what should be a very fun year, a very monumental year for the sport of MMA. I think it's the best time ever to be in the mixed martial arts game as a fight fan. And if you enjoy it all, you can subscribe to the channel. You can like this video so you never miss my thoughts and opinions, my breakdowns on big cards such as this. I recap all of the most meaningful results, all of the best fight announcements and MMA news, everything you can find right here on the Below Average Joe's MMA show. So again, comment below, interact with the community on social media at the BAJ MMA. You can follow along and listen to the long form audio version on Spotify and Apple as well. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Let me know your thoughts on PFL versus Bellator in the entire acquisition. And be sure to don't miss out on my UFC Mexico preview coming soon as well. It's a big, big weekend in the mixed martial arts space.